Doesn't matter if
Word.
yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about hair? Like, what is the spiritual significance about hair?
I'm sure you would know like quite a bit about that too, but you know, in indigenous traditions, it's very interesting because it's a form of melanation. It's knowledge. Essentially, it's knowledge from the body. It's an extension of our body, which is meant to protect us. Like it's meant to protect us, particularly the crown chakra level. The hair is, you know, that's where 80% of the heat of the body emanates to the skull, so through the head. So it's because of the brain activity, right? Like our brain is there, so that's where the most of the heat of our body actually is. So this is why I wear the turban because it protects 80% of my body. People wonder how I can do cold training and be bare, you know, bare feet in t-shirt and shorts at minus 45 or, you know, something like completely insane or minus 60 Fahrenheit and run around and be perfectly fine. It's because I got my turban. You take the turban off and have a hair shape like yours, I'm like, it's not going to work. You'll be freezing cold really quick. So in those traditions, in indigenous traditions, hair is like, you know, just like with Samson in the Bible, it's a symbol of strength. It's a symbol of knowledge, of vitality. It's an extension of our body, and it symbolizes the vitality of the people that wear it. For women, very much so, I'd say. But then, you know, you look at Eastern philosophies, you've got kind of the opposite that goes there. Whereas the knowledge that grows from our head, because we are what we eat, and the brain, you know, exudes that energy in a creative sense, but also in a physical sense. It secretes it physically and psychically, which affects not only the direction and the gravity proportion of the hair, the way it grows, if you want to put it that way, or anti-gravity. But it also affects the color of the hair. It affects the composition, and it affects the thoughts that, you know, the thoughts that are in our mind affect the way that our hair is growing and what the energy of the hair is giving us. So in Eastern philosophies, particularly in Buddhism and Jainism, in India as well, too, in a Hare Krishna tradition, many others, ISKCON, many other traditions, they shave their head regularly, or they keep it, you know, like for Hare Krishna, for example, they keep half and half. They shave almost the entire head, but they have a long dread in the back. So that's kind of a balance between both. But shaving the knowledge would symbolize, and for me, that's what it does when you're mentally unstable. It's like kind of a fresh start. It's therapeutic. So it allows a
I
meditational
definitely
state of
feel that, bro.
happiness. Mhm.
Yeah, it definitely just like gives you a very fresh slate. Like like growing up, I actually had kind of long hair. Like I had a lot of bangs I used to like hide behind in a way. Because I don't know, I kind of used my hair as like a mask in a way. So yeah, just like having not having that attachment to my hair anymore and not really having attachment to like a mental image of how I'm supposed to look and just not really taking my self-image that seriously. I'm just a fully open spirit and
No, it looks great though, man. I feel you because it's the same thing for me under that turban. You know, I shave my head on a regular basis. So, but the turban actually allows me to have the feeling in the sense of something being there, protecting my crown and protecting my ajna, like my you know, my crown chakra and um, my third eye.
yeah.
But then also it gives me the idea of like kind of feeling like I have a hair, like a hairdo, like I have like a certain, I don't want to put it that way, but it's much more complex and there's more spiritual significance to it, but it
Yeah.
actually does serve many different functions.
No, it definitely looks very cool. Like I'm actually maybe even looking into getting a turban for myself because definitely like I always wear like a beanie. Like I always love to wear just like toques because it definitely does protect the head in that way. But when I am feeling like open to like downloading information in a way, I like to just not wear anything at all. Uh,
Speaking of which, you're actually Tsigane too, so that fits. It's within the tradition, within the Roma people. That's our tradition to actually wear turbans very often for men, women, like whoever, you know. So it's very interesting. I didn't even know that you were Romanian, Hungarian. Like that's, so we share some bloodlines in common. That's probably why we look like we could be brothers or cousins, you know.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, anyways, I feel like that was a good way to start off the podcast. Um, yeah, I don't know, just let's catch up. How are you doing? How's life been for you?
Oh, it's been amazing. I've been producing tons of but not just producing, but like rather I should say recording, writing, mixing, mastering albums like crazy. Like one album a day for the past month and a half. So I'm still going on that. Like yesterday I dropped 2 albums. Um,
Yeah.
so it's been crazy, and I've been very blessed in my life. I'm very happy. I have a love of my life in my life as well too. I'm very grateful for everybody who's in my life right now, including like you've been a huge instrumental part of my shift in consciousness and my shift in emotional stability. Even if we haven't talked to each other for that long, it's been crazy because since I started connecting with you, you gave me like a whole other purpose in life.
Likewise, bro. Likewise. Yeah. I can definitely resonate with that. And I'm glad that we're connected in this way so that we can progress each other spiritually, mentally, physically, all aspects of life. Because, like for me, like I keep a very small circle. So the people who I am surrounded with, I always want to see them grow so we can all grow together. But if someone's just like kind of falling behind, I always want to pick that person up and bring them to the heights that I'm traveling to. But I don't know, with some people it's just so difficult because you can't really change people, but you can give them the keys to change those things within themselves to actually want to make the change in their own life to progress in that way. But I don't know, some people just don't want to change at all. Like they just want to stay they just want to stay as they are. And it's so difficult.
I agree, and I feel like that has to do with closed-mindedness a lot too, because people that are open-minded, they're always changing, they're always
Yeah.
shifting and evolving. If you're open to different realities and new possibilities, as long as they're healthy ones, as long as it's not like within perversion or evil, obviously. I have to say that because some people misinterpret words, but like
Mhm.
um, then you're always going to evolve. But people that are closed-minded, they're stuck in sectarian divisions and religions and politics and leftism, rightism, leftism in the stereotypical sense. I'm a leftist, but like you need to be a leftist in a right-wing system. But that
Explain that
doesn't mean
more.
that.
I definitely want to hear you
So
deeper on that.
leftist politics to me, they don't exist in the sphere of public politics. There's no leftist party. It doesn't exist because anarchists, Marxists, in China they would call, maybe they would say that there's some politics that are leftist in a sense, but I would disagree because I would say it's very much right wing in many senses. The governments everywhere, practically across the planet, are right wing. In politics in general is all right wing. Even the central Democrats and everything else, it's supposed to be democracy comes from Greece and people abusing children. So none of it is actually freedom. None of it is freeing, and it's not by the people for the people because clearly it's just an elite that are getting sponsored to do that. So leftist politics to me, they barely exist. For example, it's like not supporting big pharma, not supporting corporations, not supporting the system, not believing in a hierarchy, not believing in governments actually even having the right to rule people other than if they're indigenous governance. That's leftist. Indigenous is leftist. But most people don't associate those two together because then they'd realize they hate. If they hate leftist politics, they hate indigenous people. They hate diasporic people. They hate African. They hate everyone who basically doesn't like colonialism. So and again, like so if you want to take it to that, because I wanted to talk about religions today, let's take it to the hair and link it to what we're saying right now. If you look at Rastas, the reason why they grow their hair and grow dreads, it's because they actually, have that same principle of knowledge and wisdom being embedded within that and having that as an extension of your body, which is like almost like antennas in a sense, receptors and also protectors. But Yeshua ben Miriam, Yeshua son of Miriam, was he was a Rasta. He was from the Nazarenes. The Nazarenes had a creed not to cut their hair, not to wash their hair. So they naturally grew dreadlocks. And they were Middle Eastern. So they would have been African, Middle Eastern, golden to dark skin. So Jesus was golden skin or brown skin or black. So, that's something that a lot of Christians don't even realize. Even I've seen some Christians that are diasporic that even have Bibles with white Jesus. They don't believe in the white Jesus, but their Bible has a white Jesus in it. It's mistranslated. But if you look at like the connection between all the different religions across the planet, um, first of all, hair, one way or another, has always been extremely significant. Cutting someone's hair to remove their power, or cutting your hair to actually purify yourself. And in many different traditions, what I wanted to get into is the overlords of religions in general, which is basically like the overlords of politics. Some people think it's a conspiracy theory. that there's overlords of religion, that there's, that the gods are basically, but what is a god? It's definitely not a human, it's an alien. It comes from outside of the planet. They come from outside of the planet, he or she. If it's a she, to me, I'd believe they're benevolent. Generally speaking, they have good intentions, because the divine feminine is never causing genocide or rape or torture. It's always male, corrupted beings, and it's usually old white males doing that shit. So I'm to me, I'm very much convinced that the God of Christians, Yahweh, not Yeshua, not Jesus, but like the God, the Father God of Christians, is an evil alien, an evil old white decrepit, probably like millions, billions of years old looking humanoid, old creepy man who would be like in the form of an immortal ancient alien in a humanoid form. And that he's extremely frustrated. And this is something that's described in Gnostic scriptures and those traditions. Gnosticism is actually what Yeshua was a part of as well, too, although it originated before him. But he was very much a metagnostic person. He was a Gnostic person, which means knowing, gnosis. So he knew a lot of secrets about, and that's what I wanted to talk about yesterday. I had this realization that I believe the Mormons were right about one thing, in their book in particular, which is that Jesus survived the crucifixion and traveled to South America to go preach the Gospels there, and that he very likely died in South America instead. And that was something that it brought me to tears yesterday, having that realization, knowing that Yeshua, died maybe in the rainforest or somewhere else, but that he died in South America, because eventually he did pass away, but transcend. And so it's very interesting, because I'd have to reread the Book of Mormon to actually see what they say Jesus did and how he, transcended and where he went. But I've studied it for years. I study the Mormon church as well, too. They consider that they're from the stick of Ephraim, which is the second tribe out of the 12 lost tribes of Israel. First one is the tribe of Judah. Tribe of Judah is the Rastafarians. So the Mormons consider themselves the second. I would say the diasporic church of the Mormons would be the second tribe. And then you have the tribe of Dan, the tribe of Gad. You have a lot of other, but they're all patriarchal lineages. So very interestingly enough, we can see today that religions are still all controlled. The word religion itself literally means patriarchy. It means to bind, to submit to a male god. And I'm sick of that. To me, I'm like, this is the time, the Venus Project. This is the time of the transition between the patriarchal New World Order and the matriarchal Venus Project, between disruptive neo-Nazi technology and Avenger Tesla-based, chakric frequency energies, between the bringing back to the shamanic Schumann resonance of the Earth's frequency, which is 8.17 hertz, and then increasing that to Tirthankaric frequency, which is 17.88 hertz. And then we transcend the matrix. Essentially, at that point, we'd be at an island of immortal level where we'd be living in mythological times. And this is another thing that they don't explain in religion, is that the distortion of suffering causes us to age so much faster, that we lost our immortality because of the suffering, the rape, the genocide, the snuff, the porn, all that stuff is what makes us age faster.
Explain
Because
that
it's
more.
so horrid that we cannot fathom, even unconsciously, it's affecting us and making us decrepit. You probably notice people that suffer less, they age less, right? Like in general, it's a pretty scientifically sound thing to say. If you don't stress yourself a lot, if you don't suffer, let's say no stress, no suffering, you're on a beach the whole life. That's why Rastas, that's why diasporic people, a lot of people that traditionally lived in nature, lived in harmony with nature, they age a lot slower. I was just looking at a TikTok yesterday that my partner sent me, that actually showed a Rasta woman of 141 who looked like she could have been 70. So and then there's yogis. There's a man in China who lived to 276 or something like that in the 1800s. Methuselah in the Bible was said to have lived to 900 years, but that's believable back in those days because there was no genocide and animal act. There was still murdering animals, so they couldn't have immortal realm life. But you can imagine what the span of life of someone like Jesus would be, but he would want that for everyone in his immortal form. So Krishna, back in the days of Dwarpa, maybe 50,000 years ago, or 20,000 years ago, or whenever the case was in those mythological or semi-mythological times, probably had a lifespan of about 1,000,000 years. But then the times that we hear about were probably towards the end of his life. The mythological ages where he was a baby are described, but they probably date back to 1,000,000 years or so. And a lot of ancient civilizations, PhDs, postdoctorates in Sumeriology, Egyptology, they all agree it's quite possible the pyramids cannot be properly carbon dated, and that levitation, acoustic levitation, might have actually been in correlation with the Schumann frequency of the Earth. levitational principles they've been used and they've been documented by Shaolin monks, by other by other traditions of martial arts. So I think all of that links in together. And now we're at the cusp of the great shift. In particular tradition in India, they actually speak in the Puranas, and the Kalki Purana, actually, which is the Purana of Kalki, which coincidentally happens to be one of the names that was given to me. The story of Kalki essentially mythologically describes that we're at the end of the Kal Yuga right now. We're at the end of the age of Kal, which some people think is Kali Yuga, but it's not the age of Kali, it's the age of Kal, which is the age of blackness, which means the age of darkness, but it's a mistranslation of blackness. So they're saying it's the age of ignorance, essentially, and we're at the end of it. So we're transitioning from Pisces to Aquarius, from New World Order to Venus Project, from Kal Yuga to Treta Yuga, or from Dvapara Yuga, rather, from, what should I say? Not Dvapara. Dvapara is the minor golden age, but from, what's the other one again? It's the minor dark age right now, supposedly, and for lack of a better term, it's the minor evil age right now. The major one was during the dark ages that we considered Christianity and everything else. And now we're at the end times, but we're just at a transition between better times and a new one, which some people misinterpret as an apocalypse.
Mm. What would you say keeps someone bounded to that ignorant state of mind instead of transcending to higher states of mind and leaving that old self behind?
I would say fear. In a lot of cases, fear, which is related to ignorance, which is directly related to ignorance. When you don't know something well enough, you might be afraid of it. Like I think it was Nas who actually said that. I wouldn't want to quote him usually, but it's a good quote from back in the days when I grew up as a teenager. He said, "And hate me now. People fear what they don't understand and hate what they can't conquer." So, a lot of people hate or fear death because they can't conquer it and they don't understand it. A lot of men, even some so-called gay men, hate women, and I've seen that because they don't understand them. And they're like, "Well, I understand men." I'm like, I'm the other way around. I'm like, that's a fascinating mystery I want to unravel. But then, it's the same thing for death. Some people like, I hate death. I'm scared of death. Like, I'm very worried about it. Not necessarily hate, but like, I'd hate to die. I'd hate to suffer. I'd hate to, like, most people are lovers of pleasure, but in a way that's, it's like whatever would be self-preservation. So I think at the end of the day, a root of a lot of that would be fear, which is rooted in ignorance.
Mm. Definitely, yeah. And I feel like a lot of people's trauma is bounded with like fear, uncertainty, doubt within oneself that really keeps them bounded to like this prism. And of course, like everyone's gone through this or is going through this currently. So I don't know, just like the more that I do the work on myself, that I'm able to help others in the same way. Like I don't know, I really try to help as many people as I can because I don't know, there's just so much more to existence than just being bounded to like a closed-minded state of just living in general. Because I used to live like that and I used to be the same way and think the same way. But I don't know.
No, I feel you on that. I'm like, honestly, there's so many different aspects of life that I wish we could discuss and wrap up in a nutshell. And I feel like we do in every single, the best way I could describe it in a way that is like the paradox of life in that sense is like the way that some people consider that Buddhism is all contained, all the teachings of Buddha are contained within the Maha Mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. But what's very interesting is the Maha Mantra doesn't mention Buddha at all. It means praise be to the jewel of the lotus. But that is Buddha. So, but Buddha is a title. So it doesn't mention him as a person. At the end of the day, it's praise to, when they say Peme, it's a mispronunciation. It's Om Mani Padma Hum. And what that means is, yeah, praise to the jewel of the lotus, which is Padma, which is the goddess. So all of his teachings are contained with an understanding that we should praise the goddess, but nobody in Buddhism has directly praised the goddess the way that they should have, in the sense that they focus on Buddha most of the time, and then Tara is secondary.
Hmm.
So again, it's a corruption of patriarchy, which I think brings us into this loophole that we're in right now: the fear, the ignorance of people, like you were talking about. What makes them afraid to evolve. It's that being stuck in a patriarchal context, it's like being an outdated computer and being scared when someone wants to upgrade your RAM memory. Let's say you're a sentient computer, which we are. And then somebody's like, here, I'm going to upgrade this. You know, you're going to corrupt me. It's a virus. But then you're stuck in your old ways when you do that, which comes back to closed mindedness versus being open minded. Somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to upgrade you right now. I have some really important information for you that's going to change your life. Anybody ever says that to me, I'm like, I'm all ears. Let's do it.
Hmm.
As you describe that so well in your books in general. Like A Guide to Free Your Mind is like, that I was like, that's genius. The second one's a bit shorter, but like it's still like the questions, the existential questions answered in there, the structure, the way it goes. To me, the second one, which might have been the first one, I don't know the order you sent them to me in, but the shorter one that's like 30, 40 pages or something. They're both extremely accessible, extremely readable, really, really well structured syntactically, semantically. The vocabulary is extraordinary. The way it's put is so concise and clear. It's crystal pure. Like it's like the knowledge being transmitted in there. I'm like, whoa. And it's actually not just knowledge. You're synthesizing wisdom and disseminating it to people in a series of like chartable questions that allow them to question the nature of the universe, reflect upon it, and you're not even telling them this is what you should believe. You're telling them essentially they need to activate themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's rare. That's extremely rare.
I'm glad you can see it that way. That's exactly the vision that I was like as I was creating it and as I had it like as a manifestation in my thoughts and I was bringing it to reality. That was exactly kind of like my vision that I wanted to bestow upon the reader who was actually indulging in that. I also want to talk to you about why does a person's dreams die as they grow older? What causes that?
I think again that goes back to colonial patriarchal structure,
Mm,
because the archons supposedly, according to Gnostic tradition, to get back to the religious occult side of that, according to Gnostic tradition, the way they describe it, the archons, or I should say the evil archons, because archons are not necessarily supposed to be evil, but the evil archons, which are the opposite of angels, but they're like the overlords they're like the balance between angels and demons. They're supposed to be that, but on the negative side, they become like anti-life beings. They're like pure antimatter, and their goal is entire annihilation and destruction. Their specialization is using weapons like what we were mentioning earlier: fear, paranoia, um, you know, stress, disease, and then they specialize specifically in invading people's minds with alien thoughts that are not their own, which is why in Buddhism and Islam and all the mystical traditions side of those faiths, they say observe your thoughts but do not become them because they aren't you.
I like that. Observe your thoughts, but don't become them.
Yeah, murakaba is how you say it in Arabic, literally, and that's where the word merkaba comes from, which is a light vessel. Essentially, it's like a galactic vessel, which our bodies represent on a mesocosm, but then also it represents the galactic vessel of your thoughts once you purify them and observe what they are, which takes you to astral traveling. Like
Mm.
when you dream that murakaba, that merkaba, which you observe, becomes your vessel, which you're constructing from your thoughts, which is, I think, very much what we're doing in music. In poetry, you're constructing a vessel with your thoughts.
Mm. Yeah, like as you go into the astral planes with those thoughts, you see that your thoughts continue to create these realities that are projected from your mind. So of course, if you don't have control of your mind in that way, then you're only going to create a mess of a reality in the higher dimensions that you're building in that construct. And I definitely
Mm-hmm.
noticed that. I noticed that last night when I have crazy dreams like every night. And the more that I stay lucid and am able to turn off my mind in that sense, I kind of leave this construct and am able to just go into like a sandbox kind of area and then build in that with my thoughts and everything that I see in that way.
Yeah, very much so. I just wanted to mention quickly, I think I'm low on my battery. I don't know where I'm at exactly, but I'm under 10%. So if it shuts down, please forgive me. I'll plug it back in and we could but yeah, I
Okay.
think it's really amazing to be able to link all of these different subjects together and to actually make that fit in with what we've written, both of which I should say both of our books are freely accessible. We're not trying to capitalize off of them. We're not selling those for 19.99. This isn't a plug-in for some kind of a scam or a 3-week course that we're trying to charge $5,000 to go to Tahiti somewhere and do a fake yoga retreat, or, we're not trying to promote anything. There's no hidden agenda here. We're literally just exchanging free information for people. That's the same way that Tesla wanted free energy.
Yeah,
And
and
that's one of the reasons why we're so underrated, because there's a lot of forces, the same forces we're describing, that are working against people like us, because we make knowledge and wisdom freely accessible to people that they've been corrupting and selling to people to disease them with.
I also want to talk to you about like stemming from that. I wanted to ask you, why does it seem like everybody thinks that they know what they're talking about? Like it's just like people have been like glazed over with so much knowledge that they won't really listen to an external source in a way. Like some people are open-minded, but some out of like in like comment sections and all that, where like people are like beefing and just like so much controversy, people, I don't know, it's just there's like a disconnect from people, and I'm not sure where that comes from.
That's a really good question. I can't say for sure where that comes from either, but it's definitely, at the end of the day, everything to me stems from colonialism and patriarchy, which is one and the same.
Mm.
Matriarchy and colonialism don't fit together. Patriarchy, colonialism, genocide, all the evils you can think of in the world, they go hand in hand with patriarchy, and patriarchy goes hand in hand with religion, and all that stuff is all interconnected. So at the end of the days, if we want to, or at the end of the day, I should say, if we want to eradicate evils on the planet, we need to get rid of religion, which is what Marxists and what anarchists and a lot of people are saying. That would get rid of politics, because it's the same principle. It's just spiritual politics versus social politics. Um, you know, that's what religion is. Basically, it's spiritual politics, but falsely spiritual politics. Um, so once we clear out that hierarchy, and at the end of the day, it's the hierarchy. Even the idea of a Nobel Prize, to me, that's great. It's a great idea, but it classifies and ranks people based on one prize given to one person for one achievement in one area. But there's, hundreds, if not thousands, or hundreds of thousands of innovations every year made by people who would deserve that. But in a system where they can only award one per year, and sometimes in extreme cases award two, um, everything is structured in a hierarchy. It's like being the one that gets the A plus in the class 100% versus even grading youth, especially grading teenagers, giving them a grade that tells them what they are. That's reducing people to a number. They're putting us, they're labeling us, they're chipping us, they're injecting us. They do all this stuff. They chip our pets already, which aren't even pets. They're totems, they're watchers, they're familiars, they're guides, they're guardians. But, this whole industry is built around that ignorance and that willful forgetfulness, or the reticence to actually explore further into realms that are denied to us anyways. So I feel like this is what we're opening up to people, is to give them just a bit of a doorway into that realm.
I like that. Yeah, like yesterday when I was with my grandparents, I was showing them how to use YouTube on their TV, because like my grandma wants to watch like these cooking shows. So, and like it made me think like it's so simple for me to be able to do this for them, but because they don't have the knowledge to be able to do it themselves, it just shows like the more that you know, then the more doorways in the reality that you can open up. So like the more knowledge that you know, like true knowledge, it definitely opens the reality a lot more than if you didn't have knowledge. Like
Yeah.
I was looking back at some of my like videos from like 3 years ago, and like it's crazy. Like I don't even recognize this person anymore. And I see like who I used to be, and I see how much I've grown from that point in time, and how I've just been on this steady climb and growth of development in all areas of my life. But it's just wild. Like I can see that mind, and I can see how much like I can see how much stuff was buried in there that was holding my true self from actually blossoming out from within. It's unbelievable like how this is even built. Like it's definitely like a training module that I'm definitely understanding that like like whatever kind of beings like put this together truly, it's yeah, it's like it's truly like a training module that you have to use your intuition to be able to decipher which choices that you want to make, whether it's right choices or left choices, you could say. It's all based on your intuition. And what I've noticed is that there's a lot of external influences that try to manipulate that artificially. So then people kind of get lost on this path of artificial intelligence that they learned externally instead of going within themselves and then listening to that knowledge that they have within, kind of as like a guiding compass in the cosmos, you could say.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like what we were talking about like a few podcasts ago is how someone can just get completely lost in the black mirror, you
Yep,
know?
in scrying. Yep. Like a reverse form of scrying. Like the Tsigani is specialized in doing that. It's not that different. Back in the days when we were looking into the future and we were looking into crystal balls, and that's me and my ancestors, yours too. We were actually divining the future by summoning supernatural spirits, much the same way that technology now forces those false frequencies into structured hallucinations. But back in the days, we used to have the real deal that was looking into a crystal allowed you to peer into the timeless reflection of that mineral information of millions of years ago from Akasha and Agartha. And that was giving you visions of what was actually supposed to be happening, from remote viewing to projecting into quantum futures. But then now we can do that, but it's structured and controlled by the government through false scrying mirrors made from slave labor fabrics and crystals and minerals that are very similar. So at the end of the day, that quartz crystal blasted sand glass screen that we have on our phones is very much a scrying mirror as well too, like we said last time, like you said.
Yeah, and like stemming from that, I wanted to ask you how to initiate communication with your higher self. Like from my understanding, there's this this vessel is basically like a reflection and a baby version of my higher self. And of course, like you're being watched and judged for all of your actions, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's benevolent or malevolent. And all of these actions, of course, have a reaction and a consequence to everything that you do. Whether it's, oh, it just goes with anything because everything affects everything. Just like how, like, if I clap my hands, that's basically like reverberating the universe just in between my palms. But because of how I see things now, you can't see it with your naked eye, you know? So, oh no, like I was saying, like so much manipulation of external sources and all these like people that are shown on social media and all these things telling all different sorts of knowledge. It gets like for me personally, I was taken off track from that, but then that also made me find my own track of being able to realize what my track was in the first place. So yeah, so go on about that, how to initiate communication with your higher self.
To me, I think the easiest, most straightforward way to do that, I'll get into another way if you can, but the best way to do that is to, like you said, actualize that within that reflection of who you are. So first, to gain access to that, I would say the main aspect in maintaining that is proper nutrition, ITAL, vital nutrition. Which means no animal ag, no byproducts, no anything, because then you're a clear vessel. 80% of our body is water. Water is like a crystal. Water is a liquid crystal, essentially. So the liquid crystal, which it represents, which is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen, which is a combination of fire and air. So water is a combination of fire and air, which is why, hydrogen means generated from water. So, it's crazy because all the elements interconnect within water, and then the minerals are present within there, leftover bits from trees and earth and everything. So water contains all elements, and 80% of our body is water. So if you drink pure water, your crystal reflection, the scrying mirror of your body will reflect your higher self. That's why they say drink 8 glasses of clean water a day. That's one of the ways in which you can do that. But I say once you look into the other scrying mirror, which is the mirror of your reflection, if you've actualized your reflection of your higher self, and to me, I feel like I do that by training and doing supernatural feats on a daily basis, which is related to cities in India, which means supernatural powers. To gain those supernatural powers, sometimes all you need is shamanic medicines, good clean water, discipline, and training, and creative imagination. So for me, manifesting these feats on a daily basis, whether it's like, say earlier, just a funny joke for some people, and this is a little bit it's a little bit restricted in what I'm expressing, but it's funny. Um, I was just telling you I was flipping machetes earlier, like oversized headshot gun weight machetes, while I was watching Ariana Grande Seven Rings. Now that's a video I would never recommend anyone on the face of the planet do that, not even or especially not a Shaolin monk that's trained in flipping machetes, because I'd be like, it's highly distracting. I was staring at a giant flat screen, like a 40-inch plasma flat screen, where Ariana Grande and like all of her crew literally are all dressed up like Playboy bunnies and they're dancing around, trying being like super sexy. And I did that to train myself to see if I'm staring at the screen while I'm juggling machetes and not even really watching where the machetes are going. Let's see if I can catch them. And I'm doing reverse torpedo, backflips, side helicopter spins, like everything, full speed. And I dropped it once at the very end. My knees were buckling because I felt so affected because I was extremely distracted and they're very attractive. So I was like, it's a funny test. Like, in a sense, it's a way for me to
Yeah,
push the limits of my supernatural abilities, to see if I could be extremely distracted in a bad situation. And then later on, if I am in a bad situation, in terms of like my emotional stability, I can keep my cool.
definitely. Yeah. Oh,
God, it's just a funny anecdote like that to say that for me, it sounds like a really strange plug for Ariana Grande's music, but what I'm saying is like, that's not what I'm saying. I started listening to her music probably like 6 months ago randomly, and it popped up, and I had heard her name so many times. I'm like, oh, let's see what it sounds like.
mm,
And I listened to it once in a blue moon, but I realized that I can flip machetes to her music better than anything. And it's actually because she's a raw vegan. Like, she's ITAL vegan.
oh,
So
shit.
she's a huge activist,
Well,
she's a huge activist for the movement. And I realized that her music feels great because of that. So same thing
yeah,
actually. Miley Cyrus is vegan too. She's ITAL too. So there's a lot of like famous super so-called pop superstars that are extremely versatile, extremely intersectional, but we just see the past Disney cover of who they used to be.
oh,
I,
yeah.
I never even knew who they were back when they were doing Disney stuff. I never saw any of those movies or never saw them back then. I didn't even know until I saw them in the media. But it's interesting to see that I will listen to anything. I'll listen to stuff where there's 50 plays on YouTube or 300 million. It doesn't matter to me. If it's good music, it's good music.
Yeah. It definitely, as an artist, you have to really just stay open-minded to every kind of music, every kind of art style, just everything like that. Because you can always learn from so much if you're just open-minded in the first place.
Exactly. At the end of the day, discriminating against the kind of music would be like saying, oh, I don't like China. There's too many people there. I don't like Chinese people. There's like 3 million people in China, or like 1.5 billion people in China. I can't like discriminating on a style of music and saying, I never want to listen to that is like racism in a sense. It's like audible racism.
Mm.
It's like someone is like, I hate heavy metal. I'm like, I get it, but like, don't hate it. Just because somebody's got different, you need heavy metals in your body at a certain point, maybe small dosages for you. But or like someone is like, I hate punk, or I hate rap, or I hate rock, or I hate blues or jazz or classical or opera. Like you said, to me, it's like it's a form of audio. It's a form of phonetic racism.
Okay, we only have a minute and 30 seconds left, but I want you to quickly summarize how to transition from, say, not caring about what you put in your body to transitioning to a lot more healthy diet so you can be more connected to yourself in that way.
Well, I would say the biggest misunderstanding there, and I'll try to do it as quick as I can, is that people think that eating healthy means it's not going to taste good. I'd say cheat. Eat healthy, but eat tasty. Eat superfoods that taste delicious. Have some fair trade coconut oil that tastes like creamy butter that's actually not butter, that's infinitely better. Have some natural coconut or walnut cheese, or almond cheese, or something that's super tasty. Have some almonds. Have some roasted almonds. Have some roasted potatoes with ketchup and your favorite coconut cheese on it. Have some delicious fast foods if you want. You don't need to eat a iceberg salad with like grated carrots and little raisins on it, and that would still be tasty to me. But I would say make your favorite recipes. We're not in the 50s anymore. You can veganize anything now. You can italize anything. So, but just make sure it's healthy and alive and vibrant, and don't overcook
Oh yeah.
and drink a lot of good water.
Yeah, not overcooking food is definitely a big key. And I don't know, like I realized me personally, like as I've went into like this style of eating more, my senses are so much more heightened than from eating like salt, sugar, like having all these weird